The skyscraper's boardroom gleamed with glass walls that overlooked the city skyline, the kind of place where power was displayed not just through numbers and contracts but through the way men and women carried themselves. That morning, however, beneath the polished shine of business suits and silk ties, a storm was brewing. A hostile takeover was on the horizon, but it wasn't just about money. It was about intimidation, silence, and breaking the will of one woman who refused to bend. Isabella Grant, the sharp and poised CEO of a billion-dollar corporation, had been warned. Her company had been in the crosshairs of rivals who wanted to seize control, and today was the day they planned to corner her into submission. Yet Isabella, known as the Iron Lady in the business world, refused to step down. But what she didn't anticipate was that intimidation wouldn't come in the form of clever legal moves or paperwork, it would come in the form of a boardroom ambush. John Carter was not supposed to be there. The retired Navy SEAL had left behind the chaos of war zones for the quieter life of raising his 10-year-old daughter, Emily. He had taken a security consulting job part-time, mostly to keep busy, mostly to ensure his daughter had stability. But John had instincts he couldn't silence. When Isabella's assistant asked him to sit in on the meeting, just in case, he knew something wasn't right. The moment the men walked in, he knew the air was poisoned. They weren't typical board members or business rivals. Their body language was too controlled, too rigid, and John recognized the subtle bulge beneath one man's suit jacket. A concealed weapon. His pulse quickened, but his face remained calm, unreadable. Isabella began speaking, her voice steady, explaining her refusal to sell off critical assets. That's when the men made their move. One of them slammed a briefcase shut, rising sharply and towering over her. His tone dropped from professional to threatening. "You don't get it, Miss Grant. This isn't just a business decision. Walk away, or you'll regret it." John's chair creaked as he shifted slightly, positioning himself between Isabella and the door. He spoke for the first time, voice low but carrying weight. "Hands off the lady." The room froze. The man sneered, dismissing him as some hired muscle. But John's eyes, steel gray and unflinching, carried the quiet menace of someone who had seen things they couldn't imagine. "Sit down," another man ordered, flashing the grip of a pistol under the table. The board members gasped, some scrambling toward the corners of the room. Isabella's breath caught, but she didn't look away. She didn't beg, she looked at John. John moved with precision, every step deliberate. "You boys picked the wrong room." The first man lunged forward, reaching for Isabella's arm. John intercepted him, twisting his wrist until the briefcase clattered to the floor. The crack of bone echoed faintly, followed by a muffled scream. In the same motion, John shoved him into the wall, knocking the air out of his lungs. The second man pulled the pistol, but before he could raise it, John had closed the distance. With a disarming strike, the gun slid across the polished table, spinning like a roulette wheel before landing near Isabella. John kicked the man's knee, sending him sprawling. Panic rippled through the boardroom. Executives ducked under tables, papers scattered, coffee cups shattered. But through the chaos, John's calm remained unshaken. His training had taught him to be a fortress in storms like this. One last man remained, taller, broader, clearly the leader. He didn't reach for a weapon. Instead, he smirked. "You think you can stop this? We own half this city. We'll bury her, and you'll go down with her." John straightened, his chest rising with steady breaths. He had walked into ambushes in foreign deserts, into villages laced with traps, into firefights where the odds were 10 to 1. He had faced worse than this, and survived. He stepped closer, his voice sharp as a blade. "You make one more move toward her, and I'll show you exactly what a SEAL can do." "Try me." The man faltered, just for a second. That hesitation was all it took. Security finally arrived, alerted by the disturbance, storming the boardroom and taking control. The men who moments ago carried themselves like predators were now restrained, wrists bound, fury etched on their faces as they were dragged out. Silence lingered in the aftermath. Papers still fluttered to the floor, and board members peeked from behind chairs. Isabella, who had stood her ground through it all, finally allowed herself to breathe. Her eyes met John's, 1,000 unspoken words in that look. Gratitude, disbelief, respect. "Who are you?" she asked softly. John straightened his jacket, his voice steady. "Just a dad making sure his daughter grows up in a safer world." For a moment, Isabella's fierce mask cracked. She allowed a small, genuine smile to form. "Well, John Carter, you just saved more than a company today." He didn't linger for thanks. He knew his job was done. He gathered his daughter's drawing, a piece of paper she had slipped into his pocket that morning before school, a reminder of why he kept fighting, and left the boardroom without another word. But Isabella knew this wouldn't be the last time their paths crossed. The city was darker than she'd realized, and she had just found the one man who could walk through that darkness without fear. John stepped out into the sunlight, phone buzzing with a text from Emily, "Daddy, don't forget ice cream after school." He smiled, shaking his head. After everything, that was all that mattered. He was a retired SEAL, a protector, a single dad. And now, unknowingly, he had just become part of a battle far greater than boardroom politics. Because when the enemies regrouped, they wouldn't forget the man who stood between them and the lady they couldn't break. And John Carter was ready. Always ready. The city skyline glowed behind him as he walked away, one thought steady in his mind. Some fights weren't about war zones or missions, they were about doing the right thing, no matter the cost. And if anyone ever tried to threaten her again, they'd hear the same words, delivered with the same deadly certainty. "Hands off the lady."